the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by McCarthy, second by Boye. Any discussion? All those in favor? Randy, is that you? Unanimous? So it passes. Okay, moving on to item C, community voting forum, and blue cards, no blue cards, so we'll skip over item C. Motion, can I get a motion for item D?
Do we stay on here, anybody though?
Oh, sorry, yeah, so can you, is there any blue cards on there? I'm sorry?
Nope, there were no blue cards downstairs, but I mean for the Zoom community out there, we received no community members that wanted to ask a question. So we will proceed with the meeting.
I'll make the motion to accept D in its entirety.
So, sorry, motion for item D, personnel by McCarthy, second by Chance.
Yep.
Nickerson, any discussion? All those in favor?
I'll make the motion to accept
Hold on,
E.
it being unanimous, I guess it passes. Okay, so go ahead, if you want to make the
Make the
motion.
motion to accept E in its entirety.
Second.
Okay, motion by McCarthy, second by Boye, any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. That passes. Okay, moving on, I'm going to turn it over to Tom for an update on the plan for reopening.
Yes, so we, as everybody knows, we had to submit the plan by the 31st, and we did. We submitted it Thursday, it was due on Friday. There's been a lot of talk out there regarding the plans and whatnot, but I tried to be as transparent as I could possibly be, so what I sent in a parent letter literally showed all the constraints that the districts had to follow from the governor, state ed, DOH, and it literally showed each of the mandatory assurances that had to be done. So I didn't want anybody to wonder, why is Central Square doing it this way? So literally, all the schools in Oswego County did very similar to Onondaga County, Madison County. We took the template that the state provided, which was about 35 pages long, and then we put in each of our pieces on what we were doing for that. The big thing that people need to understand is early on we were being compared to other districts and other counties. Someone said, Tom, how did you and your team come up with the idea of elementary coming in each child twice each a week, which means that the teachers are actually providing in person 4 times a week so that to accommodate every kid getting 2 days. That's the AABB schedule I'll talk about. So, and then the middle school, at first, there was no in-person except for any students in our district that do not have Wi-Fi access or poor Wi-Fi access. They leave us in. And the high school, so they'll be bused to the high school. Just make sure that everybody's muted on here.
Tom, they're having a hard time hearing you on Zoom. The Zoomers.
Somebody's pouring.
Is that thing operating properly?
Can't they mute the Zoom?
Yeah, because not everybody has their mute.
Yeah, I don't know what it's doing.
Derek, can you mute everybody on here? Because I think there are some people, there's a Vicky, that it doesn't show it's muted.
I cannot mute other people. They have to mute themselves in Zoom.
Can I mute everybody?
Yeah, who's the administrator of the?
Yeah, the administrator.
I made her co-host, so kind of mute everybody because if someone has background noise.
But this thing needs to be addressed, because this is like,
Oh, she just did, muted everybody. Great. But it also muted me, Connie. So unmute me. Okay. Pardon the disruption. This is happening because we are one of the few districts that are actually having these in person and providing community members as long as it's under 50 people to come in. So please bear with us. This is the first time that we actually had a board meeting with participants from the community here. So I'm sorry for any speed bumps along the way. So I want to go back to what I was saying. And what I was saying, I'll speak very loud for the owl. I apologize to the people that want to know why I'm yelling. So when we put out a survey, it showed that 10% of the 1,675 respondents said that they were going to be keeping their kids home. It was roughly about 105. There were 900 something that were saying that they were going to be sending their kids, and then there was 33%, so whatever that was, 550, that said they were undecided. So then after that, we followed up with the principals at the elementary, sending another email to the parents, so we actually had definitive numbers. We had real numbers and names, so then there wasn't an overlap. If a husband answered it and his wife answered it before, we would have had different skewed information, so that kind of rectified that situation. Right now, giving everything that we have received, it's still under 4% of the parents that are keeping their kids home. So that is very, very low. Other districts and other counties, not ours is pretty consistent in Oswego County, but other counties have it as high as 45% of the parents that are keeping their kids home, which means that literally is dividing the class almost in half, which then means that they can have more in-person learning, because it comes down, even more important than space, it comes down to staff. At the elementary level, our Executive Director of Elementary Education, Erin Phillips, is wonderful. She figured out the numbers, and we would literally, just at the elementary level, if we were to bring in elementary kids, every day we'd have to hire 55 more teachers, and that would be $5.5 million. And even if we won the lottery and had that money, we don't have 55 teachers that are out there, candidate-wise. So the pool is getting smaller and smaller, unfortunately, as things tighten up in New York State. Less people are going into education, so that in itself is a struggle. So that's the reason why we came out with what we came out with. I just recently put another email blast out to all parents over the weekend that said to the elementary parents, please respond to your child's principal's survey, because if more parents are deciding to keep their kids home, then we can re-look at how many times we can bring elementary in. So I want to also address the elephant in the room. I was on the news today, and the last thing I want is anybody to think I'm kind of waging like social media war against the county executive of Onondaga County, Ryan McMahon. I'm not. I've followed all Ryan's press conferences. He gives really good communication. Hats off to him. He got back to me 5 minutes before his last press conference, well, 2 press conferences ago, and I thank him for that. We just disagree, and what it comes down to is the governor, through the state education department, was very clear, and I just want to, I read this if you watched the news today, I just want to say it. So this is right off the state education website, obviously linked to the governor's office. It says, based on further discussion with the governor's office on July 21, 2020, regarding the NYSDOH, it's the Department of Health, guidance released July 13, 2020, we are providing the following clarified response questions 1 and 2 as indicated in red. And I'm just going to read number 1 and 2. Question: do students and staff have to maintain a 6-foot distance from each other at all times? Answer: pursuant to the New York State Department of Health guidance, schools must ensure that appropriate social distancing, i.e. 6-foot barriers, is maintained between individuals while in school facilities and on school grounds, inclusive of students, faculty, and staff, unless safety or the core activity requires a shorter distance. Schools must maintain protocols and procedures for students, faculty, and staff to ensure appropriate social distancing to protect against the transmission of COVID-19 virus when on school grounds and in school facilities, including the responsibility to configure spaces so individuals can maintain social distancing. Then it says, question 2. Do student cohorts have to maintain a 6-foot distance from each other at all times? New York State Education Department guidance, page 29. The answer: please see response to question number 1. So the answer, and we've looked at this, we've had legal look at it, and they say you absolutely have to create the 6 foot of separation. Not the 6-foot radius, but a 6 foot from one person to the next person. And if by some reason there's a time where kids have to be within that, examples that were given to me were on the school bus when they walk past an aisle where another kid might be sitting, they have to put their mask on. But you cannot configure classrooms with the assumption that you can put 25 or 30 kids in a room and think that they're going to wear this mask all day long. A, that's not realistic, but B, that clearly goes against what the guideline was. If you saw the governor today, whether you agree or disagree with him, we have to accept that he has the power to shut a school district down, or to shut all of them down, just like that. And he made it very clear in his press conference that he is also very worried that parents need to feel the most comfortable, and school districts need to make plans that are not putting hazardous conditions and making it too crowded. So it can't be any easier than that. If there are any parents, and I've spoken to probably 1,000 parents over the last 7 days, that was a big question that they had. A lot of parents were saying, I do not feel comfortable sending my kid to school if I know for 9 hours, bus ride, all day long, and bus ride, that my child, who is 7, 8, 9 years old, is going to be expected to wear this. The other question is, they'll be eating in their classrooms, and if you put 25 kids in there, how would they even be able to take the mask off to eat the food and be 6 feet apart? If a school district does not create an environment that runs concurrent with the governor's executive orders, the district is liable for massive lawsuits. So that's not the main motivation reason. I've been tasked for safety and security first and foremost, but I'm following the governor's guidelines to a T. I believe our plan will be accepted because the rooms, I feel, are safe. Kids are 6 feet apart, they take their masks off. I also want to address, I still probably 5 or 6 phone calls a day and why I'm not having sports or band. Tom Calabufo does not make that decision. If the governor said, I'm lifting all restrictions on sports, on band, on capacity, Central Square the next day would be operating at full capacity, and parents would have that choice if they want to send their kids. So, again, I just say this because I don't want anybody to think that I'm adding any more restrictions that Governor Andrew Cuomo has already put in place. That's pretty much what I wanted to say today. Again, my phone number, I put it out there, 315-314-1432. I will take your phone calls day or night, weekends, whatnot, because I feel it's important that you have a place to be able to voice your concern, share ideas, give feedback, and whatnot. And as your superintendent, it's my job to take those calls. I appreciate all the conversations that I've had with the parents. There you go.
Tom?
Tom, what was the percentage of responses overall?
1,675 out of 3,700.
So percentage-wise.
So that was
Less than 50%.
less than 50%. There's 2,200 parents still have responded.
33%. 33%. So to those parents, they put us a little bit in a,
Yeah.
we're making decisions,
I don't
you know,
understand.
again, to the parents out there, you've really put us in a position, Tom in a position, and his team, to make not maybe the best decisions, but the decisions that had to be made based on the data we have.
Right.
That's unfortunate, folks.
Mhm.
That is really, really unfortunate that people couldn't take the time. Your child's education is not that important, but you couldn't take the time to fill out the damn survey.
And I will say to that, Tim, if people think that the governor is not going to come in and measure classrooms and look at space, especially after shutting down New Hartford's graduation twice, then they're wrong. We will have people coming out here measuring classrooms, looking at kids in the hallways.
Yeah.
That is, especially if you caught the tone of the governor during his press conference today, he is right there with the parents and teachers that are concerned and making sure that things are followed and are safe.
But I think he's gonna task the Department of Health for that, no matter what.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's gonna be probably their main objective, probably for at least the next year.
What board member Randy Hoyt just said was he also believes that the governor will be tasking the DOH to make sure that they're sending people, which Mr. Hoyt is correct.
Christie, I just want to clarify something Tom's probably glossed over a little bit, but it's got to be made crystal clear. Tom, the board, the school district, nobody here is technically the person that needs to be called, complained to, yelled at, screamed. There's one person, and that's the governor of this state.
Right.
That's the person right now that's holding everyone hostage from making either smart decisions, a decision, moving forward, moving backward. He is the one person. So please, if you've got a voice and you've got the ability to extend that voice, pick up the phone, write a letter, get on a computer, and contact contact the governor of New York State, because he is the individual that needs to be assaulted with this level of aggression or anger or questioning or whatever you want to call it. He is the one person. But we are more than willing to take your questions, help you out, do whatever we can to answer your questions. But when it really gets down to brass tacks, there's one person, and that's the governor of New York State.
And I don't want to sidestep and hide the fact that I understand that parents are struggling with the daycare question. I get that completely. And I don't want parents watching this saying, but you know, the way that you're interpreting the 6-foot rule is making it impossible for my husband and myself to be able to go to work and pay the bills and whatnot. And my heart goes out to you, but I don't have a choice. It was clearly discussed, given to all of us, about what a safe environment is for students to be able to come in and then take their masks off. So again, my heart goes out to you. I'm not hiding the fact that it makes a big daycare issue. I'm more than happy to hear any ideas that parents have. And I will say this. There are parents that have contacted me that have created learning pods in their neighborhood. There's really probably at this point not a parent out there, but maybe there is, that have completely stayed so isolated and their kids haven't played with anybody. But most parents out there, and this is your right as a parent, that have mixed it a little bit in the neighborhoods, or certain kids your kids are playing with, maybe your kid's playing Little League Baseball, or maybe your kid's playing Pop Warner football, and you've already have that group. And parents are saying, we are kind of rotating among 6 households, because the kids are playing with those kids anyway. And so if a parent has to work that day, those parents aren't there. And they've kind of worked out a rotation. You parents are not subjected to the same restrictions that school districts are. Hence, look at the playgrounds for the town, for the villages. They can have them open. School districts can't. I get an earful from angry mothers every time I go out to that playground, and a couple fathers, because I have to tell them they can't go on that playground. Again, that's not Tom Calabufo's decision. That comes right from the health department through the governor. So if you want to create those learning pods, those opportunities, you are 100% allowed to do that. Okay?
Anybody else? Okay, go into item G then, reports. I don't believe there's any unfinished business. I don't have anything personally, so I'll open up the floor to anybody else that has anything to report.
Nope, not me.
Okay, so then I'll turn it back over to Tom again for the superintendent's report.
Well, I just did, so that's everything that I wanted to talk about. I do want to say I'm not upset with any of the parents. At the beginning of our phone conversations when they vent and they're getting their frustrations out, I totally get it. Because my wife does that to me 6 or 7 hours a day about her frustrations about why aren't our kids back to school longer. For those parents that say, but you don't get it, I have a special needs kid. I do get it, I have an autistic child, and yes, I'm losing more hair as I pull out. So it is frustrating sometimes. We have an amazing head of special ed here. We are doing whatever we can do to try to get more in-person learning. But again, it comes down to us having real numbers of kids that are going to be coming in for in-person learning as opposed to the parents that are saying, no, we're keeping them at home. If more parents let us know if they're keeping them at home, that will allow us to bring more in. I am very happy that we're bringing in students that don't have Wi-Fi in the middle school and the high school. Our high school principals being very creative in planning social and emotional type events and bringing students in. On Wednesdays, she's starting to plan this out. Busing is a big issue. People have compared us to Liverpool, Beeville, CNS. They have a tremendous percentage of their kids in their district are walkers. Central Square, 200 square miles, 3 counties, we have no walkers. So before we could have 65 kids on a bus, now we're capped at 22. So if you were to figure it out, we would have to probably start bus runs at 2 in the morning and go to 11 o'clock at night to be able to accommodate some of the in-person learning. So even though we only have 3,700 and change, in other districts with 6,000, you got to put all the variables in place. How many people are keeping their kids home? And then also, there's not a district in New York State that has 200 square miles, 3 counties. We are the largest geographical district in New York State.
Can I just ask a question, Tom? Can you touch on them snacks and the meal
Yes.
issues?
Yep, at the elementary level, students will be provided an opportunity for lunch and breakfast in school. Now, what does that mean? If they get free or reduced lunch, they're free. If they don't, just like normal, kids would pay and get their breakfast and have time to eat their lunch. At first, we were really struggling to try it because you still have to have minutes. Some people said, why are you going 9 to 1? Why not all day? That's harder for parents. because that's another thing, like Mike Lawyer, board member Mike Lawyer said, this is something you want to take up with the governor and the state education department. Because the state education department makes all decisions, but anything money related, that comes from the governor's office. So the amount of minutes, the 180-day rule, the governor absolutely has a huge say in that because he's funding that with the roughly $52 million a year that Central Square gets out of an $82 million budget. So the reason why our elementary goes from 9 to 1 is when those kids leave, our teachers then have to jump online and provide synchronous and asynchronous for the students that weren't in there that day, because even though every student gets 2 in-person days, there's 3 days for every student that is going to be virtual. And it's mandated that we have that. If parents are upset and they're saying, why is the school doing this? Just don't do that. Then we lose all funding and we get shut down by the governor. So we still have to comply with the 180-day rules and the mandated minutes. And so at first it was going to be like, well, when are we going to feed the kids lunch? We'll give them a box lunch. But I listened to the parents. My whole team did. And again, those 1,000 parents were like, it's just not realistic. Our kid goes to daycare, they go to grandmother's house. I get it, you were going to deliver we were going to come and pick the food up like you did over the closure. And so we listened. And so they will be served that lunch during the day, whether it's noon or 12:30, but they will get their lunch before they go home.
Anyone else?
And it's not for this time, Tom, but could you, maybe at a next board meeting or whatever, tell us about the construction projects regarding the closure? Is it happening faster? Is it slower? Is it slowing things down? Can you give us a timeline?
I can tell you that right now, we're ahead of schedule. The only thing that was a little slowed down was because of COVID. It was getting the bid process for the safety and security, but we came in almost $1 million below the bid. But it was delayed a little bit because of COVID. They weren't allowing us to come in and have a big bid opening. But it really ended up working out in our favor, and they're rolling right now. Our auditorium looks amazing, and people were seeing the wood paneling and whatnot that's up there. Got a question from a parent that said, why aren't they providing synchronized learning with kids in school and at home? So, again, there's a cost to that. So the devices that are able to then capture what is happening, kind of like what we're doing here with the OWL, it is very, very expensive to have that technology set up for all the hundreds of classrooms that we have to be able to provide synchronous and to be able to provide live instruction, and that the kids at home would then be able to tune in and get that as well. But that is something, Ms. Watkins, that we are looking at to try to be able to capitalize. So that is a very good question. If you want to follow up, I put my cell phone number out there. We can have a conversation.
Tom, to that point, was there talk that we were going to have the teachers recording in the morning? Recording lessons? So just capturing it and then posting videos?
So we're talking about the elementary?
Yeah.
So we're going to do that anyway. That's the asynchronous instruction.
Right.
Yes, where there's going to be videos of themselves, because now we have this thing called Canvas, which is way better than Google Classroom or Schoology. Those are 2 platforms that really kind of lend it to having in-person learning and then just like an electronic version of your classroom where you can post assignments, they can put the assignments into, but when it comes down, we needed a platform that gave better instruction. There was a survey that a lot of parents answered, and I got about 3,000 responses about distance learning, and they were all saying, kudos to our teachers for turning on a dime March 16 to do distance learning overnight, but it seems like the majority of teachers, they were saying we're just more of posting assignments as opposed to providing like a foundational lesson, and teachers were trying to pull their hair out teaching Common Core math, and we're so frustrated with this. I got those phone calls from parents, and again, no fault to our teachers, we just never had to do distance learning at this level. So we are going to be providing distance learning to our teachers. I believe it was already approved, Connie, am I right or wrong, the calendar change? It's on this one. So the board will approve a calendar change, which will front load our professional development superintendent conference days, start school year a couple days later to provide our staff members with the professional development needed. Even though the company said it only takes 1 hour, no, we need like 4 days of giving intense professional development so all the teachers feel comfortable with this. And a lot of teachers have already reached out to me, and they love Canvas because it's all in one. Kids don't need to jump out of that to YouTube to try to come back in. Oh, it froze. So these are all things that we listened to the parents on that feedback form, and we went with Canvas.
Hey, Tom, I think going forward, stuff has obviously changed, I think, forever when it comes to IT, right? And you think about where the district was 5-6 years ago, not wide throughout the building. And I think there's still a big gap that's gonna have to come with IT. And I think earlier that we could get on a futuristic, what is 2 years, 4 years, 5 years of IT? The Chromebooks, how long have we had them? And what's that's gonna be? Because if there's federal money coming, right, to kind of buy masks and all that, to me, the outlier is gonna be IT equipment and modernizing and making us ready for the future.
So Arena just had our second submission of our Smart Schools bond money. We were allocated, I want to say like $4.6 million 4 years ago. And that's part of our replacement plan for the technology. They can only be used for technology.
Right.
So there were a lot more Chromebooks because some had to go. That like 4 years is what they're saying. But the good news is that they're coming down in price. And soon they're going to be around $65, $70 to be able to get a Chromebook, which is going to be a game changer for districts. But this is going to
Cameras
change.
and all the technology that's going to be needed in order to provide what the school's going to need. I don't know the answer to that, but I think long-term planning.
Well, yeah, you're talking forward-looking, let's get ahead of this, let's not,
IT's
don't
not
worry about a
going away.
$65 Chromebook, but what's the next layer, what's the next level, how are we gonna get there from here? Get ahead.
I don't think this is it's not going anywhere.
Agreed.
Second.
Anything else online?
Yes, someone wrote, is the Canvas group on Facebook and YouTube a tool for parents to utilize? I don't know if they mean our Facebook page. I'll look more into that. I'll have Arena, our head of technology, take a look at that.
Tom, we are gonna do tutorials for parents and kids.
Yep.
It'll be on the website. Do you want me to put that in here?
Yes, go ahead. We will be having a tutorial, document for parents. I forgot to mention that because we can't just provide professional development to our staff. We have to provide a document for parents that's so easy to understand because it may be the grandmother or the grandfather or the aunt or the uncle or somebody at daycare that's sitting with the child. We want this to be so simple that parents can look at this and go, oh, because a big thing that came out of the last feedback, the survey for distance learning, parents were saying, listen, we had to learn, I have 3 kids, Schoology, Google Classroom, and 42 different apps.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I love our teachers and their creativity. I love how they want to differentiate, how they provide instruction. But when you're thinking about parents at home, we cannot, they're the customer, and teachers got this. So it was a little bit of uncomfortableness among the staff to come up with just Canvas, but we could not expect our parents at home, and grandparents and aunts, uncles, and whatnot, neighbors, to be proficient in all of these different learning platforms.
So, Tom, I hate to shut this down, but I feel like if we continue to take questions, we're just gonna be, I don't know that we're even supposed to be taking questions from the public
That's true.
right now.
We
So-
wouldn't allow it if
so
it was a regular.
That's true.
Yeah.
So let me say this.
So-
Any of these questions are on here right now.
Call or email.
You can call me or you can email me. We can talk about Baskel. But that is a really good point. Technically, we're kind of getting away from the protocols of a board meeting by question and answer on this.
Right.
All right? But I don't want you to think that we're not going to answer. I will answer all of them.
I hate to shut it down.
Nope.
But,
Totally get it.
okay.
I
All right.
am the vice president, I will.
Okay, so anybody else on the board have any topics for discussion? No. Okay. Moving on then to item H.
Can we
Items
do
for
these all at
discussion and
once?
action. No, we have to take them one at a time, I believe. So,
I make a motion for H1.
Second.
okay, motion by McCarthy, second by Boyer. Pearl, do I have to read these? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Make a motion for H2.
Second.
Okay. Motion by McCarthy, second by Boyer, and I'll just read the title. Approval of the intermunicipal agreement with the Oswego County Highway Department for Blacktop. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, it passes. Any a motion for H3, approval of the resolution for emergency purchases.
Make the motion.
Second.
McCarthy with the motion, Boyer with the second. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. So I will make the motion that the Central Square Central School District Board of Education hereby move into executive session to discuss matters leading to the appointment, tenure of one particular person with no action to follow. Can I get a second? Second by Loyer. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, so the Central Square School District will now move into executive session, which is closed to the public, unfortunately, so.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for coming. There is no action to follow, so as soon as we come back in, we're just gonna end the meeting, so,
And then each out of the driveway.
yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you guys, honestly,
And then
thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes us feel a little bit normal.
Yeah, it's nice to see some faces and.
Yeah.
Make sure you turn on.
Have a great night.